The certified deed had my name on it. Not a note, not a memory, not something I had imagined, because I wanted the house to matter more than it did. A real county deed. My name was right there beside Victor's. So when my husband stood in our kitchen and said, "This house was never yours," I did not answer him right away. I just looked down at the copy in my hand and felt something inside me go cold, because he had not said it like a mistake. He had said it like a punishment. For weeks, Victor had been telling me to pack faster. He said I was making the separation harder than it needed to be. He said I had lived in his house long enough. He said if I kept asking questions, I would embarrass myself in front of people who actually understood paperwork. Then I said one sentence. "My name is on the deed." His face changed before his mouth did. That was how I knew. The deed did not just prove I had rights to the house. It proved he had let me cry in the hallway, fold my clothes into trash bags, and apologize for standing in a home he knew was partly mine. He grabbed for the paper, but I moved it behind my back. Then he said, softer this time, "You do not understand what you are looking at." But I did. I was looking at the first piece of proof that my husband's biggest lie was not about a house. It was about making me believe I had never belonged anywhere without his permission. If you have ever been made to feel small in a place you helped build, leave a comment so I know I am not the only one. Tell me where you are listening from and what time it is there, because stories like this need witnesses everywhere. And if you want to hear how the truth comes out piece by piece, please subscribe when you are ready and stay with me. Because the deed was only the first shock. The next thing I found out was why Victor needed my signature so badly. I kept the deed behind my back until Victor stopped reaching for it. For a few seconds, the kitchen was so quiet that I could hear the old clock above the pantry. The same clock I had bought at a flea market 2 summers before. The same clock Victor had laughed at when I said it made the room feel like home. Now, he looked at me like I had stolen something from him. "Give me the paper," he said. I shook my head once. My hand was shaking, but I kept my voice low. "Why do you need my signature?" That was the question that changed the room. Victor blinked. Then his anger shifted into something smaller and faster. Panic. He tried to cover it with a tired sigh, like I was being dramatic again. "Because the lawyer needs clean paperwork," he said. "That does not mean you own anything." I looked down at the folder on the counter. He had left it there, that morning, pressed under his car keys like it was nothing. A separation agreement, a few house pages, a sticky note with a bright yellow arrow pointing at one blank line. My blank line. At first, I had thought the papers were only about the marriage. Then I saw the words property interest near the top of one page. I did not understand every line, but I understood enough to know Victor had lied twice. First, he said the house was never mine. Then he asked me to sign papers that only mattered if my name still had power. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him how many nights he had watched me cry on the stairs while knowing the truth. I wanted to ask if he felt proud when he made me pack dishes I had chosen, towels I had washed, and picture frames I had hung with my own hands. But I did not give him that. Instead, I slid the deed into my purse and zipped it shut. Victor's eyes followed the sound. "You are making this ugly," he said. "No," I said. "I am reading before I sign." His jaw tightened. He reached for his phone, then stopped himself. That was the second clue. He did not want to call someone in front of me. He did not want a witness. He wanted me scared, alone, and fast. So I picked up the separation agreement and took one picture of the page with the yellow arrow. Then I took one picture of the deed. I sent both to myself before he could move again. That was the first small thing I did for myself. I did not know yet what the words meant. I did not know why the deed had my name, why the agreement needed my signature, or why Victor looked like the floor had opened under him. But I knew one thing. If the house had never been mine, he would not have been so afraid of me reading the paper. And before I could understand what he was trying to take from me now, I had to go back to what that house had been before he turned it into a weapon. I did not leave the kitchen right away. I stood there with my purse against my side, feeling the hard corner of the deed through the leather. Victor kept watching it like it was a match near gasoline. For years, that house had been the one place I thought we both wanted the same thing. We saw it on a rainy Thursday. The front porch had one cracked step, the backyard fence leaned to the left, and the kitchen smelled like old paint. I loved it before Victor did. I remember walking from room to room, already seeing curtains, clean windows, Sunday coffee, and a life that felt quieter than the apartment we had been renting. Victor had smiled then. He put his hand on my back and said, "This could be ours." Ours. That word stayed with me for years. When the water heater broke, I used money from my small savings account to help replace it. When the living room wall had that ugly brown stain, I painted it myself over one long weekend while Victor worked late. When the porch step finally cracked all the way through, I found a repairman, paid the deposit, and waited outside in the heat while he fixed it. I was not thinking about deeds back then. I was thinking about home. Victor always handled the closing papers, the bank calls, the folders with tabs, and the long emails from people whose job titles I never fully understood. He said he was better with that kind of thing. I believed him because marriage was supposed to have trust in it. And I trusted him with the boring things because I thought he trusted me with the heart of the house. I knew which window stuck in the winter. I knew which cabinet door needed to be lifted before it shut. I knew where the floor dipped near the hallway because I had walked it barefoot in the dark 1,000 times. So when he told me I had only lived there because he allowed it, he was not just taking away a legal right. He was trying to erase every ordinary day that proved I had belonged there. I looked at the clock again, then at the separation papers. The yellow arrow on my signature line looked almost childish now, like someone had tried to make betrayal simple. Victor lowered his voice. "You are confused because you are emotional." Maybe once that line would have worked. That day, I only picked up my phone and checked that the pictures had sent to my email. The deed, the signature page, the words property interest. All three were there. Victor saw me looking. "What did you just do?" he asked. I did not answer, because the old life was already changing shape in my head. The sweet parts were still real, but now they had shadows under them. And the first shadow I had to look at was not in the deed. It was in every time Victor had told me not to worry about the paperwork. The first time Victor told me not to worry about paperwork, I thought he was being helpful. We had been sitting at the dining table with a stack of forms between us. I remember how he tapped the pages with 2 fingers and said, "You will only stress yourself out if you read all of this." Back then, I had laughed because I wanted to believe we were a team. Now, standing in that same house with the deed saved on my phone, the memory did not feel sweet anymore. It felt planned. There had been so many little moments like that. When the mortgage company called, Victor walked into another room. When mail came from the county office, he opened it first. When I asked why my name was on one envelope, but not another, he kissed my forehead and said, "Because they send copies to everyone. It does not mean anything." I had believed him, not because I was stupid, because I was married. That was the part that hurt most. He had used the place where trust was supposed to live. My phone buzzed while I was still standing near the counter. Victor had sent a text from across the room. "Stop sending yourself things you do not understand." I looked up at him. He was pretending to read something on his own phone, but his jaw was tight. That message told me more than his face did. He was not angry because I was confused. He was angry because I had started keeping proof. I opened my email again and made sure the deed photo was there. Then I made sure the picture of the signature page was there too. I did not know if those pictures would matter later, but I knew they mattered to him. And right then, that was enough. Another memory came back. About a year earlier, Victor had rushed me through a refinance update. He said the bank needed fresh signatures because interest rates had changed. I remembered standing by the kitchen island while he flipped pages for me. Here, he had said. Here, and here. I had asked if I should read it first. He had sighed like I was a child making things harder. Lena, do you want me to handle this or not? So I signed. I could still see the pen in my hand. Blue ink. 3 blank lines. Victor's thumb holding down the corner of the page. So I could not easily turn it back. At the time, I thought he was impatient. Now I wondered if he was afraid. The deed in my purse suddenly felt heavier. The separation agreement on the counter looked different too. It was not just a stack of papers anymore. It was part of a pattern. Victor had not started controlling the story that morning. He had been teaching me for years to trust his words more than my own eyes. I did not confront him again. Not yet. I opened a note on my phone and typed 1 line. Every paper Victor rushed me to sign. Then I added the refinance date as best as I could remember it. Because if I was going to understand what he had done, I needed more than 1 deed and 1 signature page. I needed the whole trail. I went upstairs before Victor could start another fight. I did not run. I did not slam a door. I walked like I had a reason to be calm, even though my heart was beating so hard I felt it in my throat. The bedroom still had 2 open suitcases on the floor. One was full of clothes. The other had towels, old photo frames, and a small box of receipts I had almost thrown away the night before. I pulled the box onto the bed. For the first time, those boring pieces of paper looked like they might be able to speak for me. I found the receipt for the water heater. My card number was on the bottom. I found the porch repair deposit, the paint store receipt, and the old invoice from the man who fixed the kitchen window. None of it proved ownership by itself. I knew that, but it proved something Victor had tried to erase. I had not just lived there. I had helped keep that house standing. My phone buzzed again. Victor, stop digging through things. You are making this worse. I stared at the message for a long second. Then I took a screenshot that went into a folder on my phone called House. Then I changed the name to House Proof. My hand still shook, but the shaking felt different now. It was not only fear. It was motion. I opened my email and searched Victor's name with the word ours. The first message that came up was from 5 years earlier. Victor had sent it after we bought the dining table. Looks perfect in our house. Our house. I took a screenshot. Then I searched mortgage, closing, refinance, insurance, county, date. Some searches gave me nothing. Some gave me old reminders I barely remembered. A few gave me emails where Victor had told me not to worry because he had already handled it. Every message felt small alone. Together, they started to look like a trail. I took pictures of the separation agreement again, this time page by page. I did not understand every line, but I circled the words property interest on the screen with my finger before saving the photo. Then I opened a note and made a list. Certified deed with my name, signature page, property interest page, water heater receipt, porch repair deposit, paint receipt, Victor text telling me to stop digging, Victor email saying our house, refinance memory. I stopped at that last line. Memory was not proof. Not yet, but it was a place to start looking. Downstairs, a cabinet slammed. Lena, Victor called. I am not doing this all night. His voice had that sharp edge again, the one he used when he wanted me to move faster than I could think. I put the receipts back in the box, but I did not put the box away. I slid it into my suitcase under the towels. Then I emailed the list to myself. After that, I did one more thing. I opened my contacts and searched for the number my coworker had once given me after her divorce. A real estate attorney. Mara Ellis. My thumb hovered over the call button because I had gathered what I could. But now I needed someone who could tell me what the trail meant. I did not call Mara Ellis from the bedroom. Victor was too close. I could hear him moving around downstairs, opening drawers harder than he needed to, letting cabinet doors shut with that sharp little snap he used when he wanted me to feel his anger through the walls. So I put the receipt box in my suitcase, carried my purse with the deed inside it, and stepped into the upstairs bathroom. I locked the door before I called. Mara answered on the fourth ring. Her voice was calm, and that almost made me cry. I told her I had been asked to sign separation papers. I told her my husband said the house was never mine. Then I told her I had a county deed with my name on it. She did not gasp. She did not make me feel dramatic. She only said, "Do not sign anything today." Those 6 words felt like someone putting a chair under me after I had been standing too long. I do not know what all of it means. I said, "You do not have to know all of it yet," Mara said. "You only have to stop signing until the records are checked." I sent her the pictures while we stayed on the phone. The deed, the signature page, the property interest page, Victor's text telling me to stop digging, the list I had made from the receipts and old emails. She was quiet for a minute. Then she said, "Lena, if he says you have no interest in the house, but the agreement still needs your signature on a property page, that is a problem." My stomach tightened. Does it mean the deed is real? I asked. "It means we need certified copies, not just a photo," she said. "I will request the county record. Then I want the title chain." I had heard those words before, but they had always sounded like something for other people. People who knew how to fight with paper. Mara explained it simply. A title chain was the official history of who owned the house and what papers had been recorded. If my name had been added, removed, or touched by another document, that chain would show it. Another document. The words made my skin prickle. "There may be nothing wrong," she said carefully. "But if there is a later paper that says you gave up your share, we need to know when it was signed and who notarized it." I thought about the refinance pages. Victor's thumb on the corner. His voice saying, "Here, here, and here." Someone knocked on the bathroom door. "Lena," Victor said. His voice was lower now. "Who are you talking to?" Mara must have heard him, because her tone changed. "Do not argue with him," she said. "Do not explain what I am doing. Keep the papers safe. Send me everything. And if he asks, tell him you need time to review before signing." I looked at the locked door. For the first time all day, I did not feel completely alone. When I stepped out, Victor was standing in the hallway. His anger was gone too fast. He looked tired, almost hurt. "I am sorry," he said softly. "Can we just talk like husband and wife for 5 minutes?" And that was when I knew he had changed tactics. Victor's voice was soft enough to scare me. A few minutes earlier, he had been knocking on the bathroom door and asking who I was talking to. Now he stood in the hallway with his shoulders low, like I had hurt him by asking questions. "I am sorry," he said again. "I should not have said it that way." I kept my purse close to my side. The deed was still inside it. My phone was still in my hand. Mara's warning was still clear in my head. "Do not sign anything today." Victor looked at the phone, then at my face. "I know this is hard," he said, "but we do not have to turn it into a war." That almost worked. Not because I trusted him in that moment, but because part of me still remembered the man from the rainy Thursday when we first saw the house. The man who had said ours. The man who had kissed my forehead in the kitchen after I painted the living room wall. I wanted that man to be real. But the man in front of me was watching my purse like it held a weapon. "What do you want, Victor?" I asked. He sighed and rubbed his hand over his face. "I want us to finish this with some dignity." That word hit me hard. Dignity. He had called me confused, emotional, embarrassing. He had told me I lived in his house long enough. But now that I had proof, He wanted dignity. He stepped closer, slow enough to look gentle. "The papers are just to keep things simple," he said. "You do not need a lawyer making you more upset." I did not answer. Mara had told me not to explain what she was doing. So I let Victor talk. That was when he made his mistake. If we get this signed quickly, I can keep the house issue from becoming a bigger problem. The house issue, not the separation, not our marriage, the house. I felt my fears settle into something colder. "What bigger problem?" I asked. His face tightened for 1 second. Then the softness came back. "You are twisting my words," he said. "I am trying to protect both of us." But he was not protecting both of us. He was protecting a timeline I could not see yet. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a pen. Not his phone, not keys. A pen, like he had been carrying it for this exact moment. "Just sign the pages that are marked," he said. "Then we can both breathe." I looked at the pen, then at the hallway behind him, then at the stairs leading down to the kitchen, where the yellow arrow still pointed at my blank signature line. My whole body wanted to shake. "Instead," I said, "I need time to review before signing." His soft face disappeared, only for a second, but I saw it. The apology had never been about peace. It had been another way to get my name on paper before the records came back. So when Victor went quiet, I knew Mara could not just review things in the background anymore. We needed to make the first official move before he made the next one. I went back into the bathroom and locked the door again. This time, my hands were not shaking as much. Victor stood outside for a minute, saying my name in that low warning voice. Then his footsteps moved away. I waited until I heard him downstairs before I called Mara again. He tried to get me to sign, I said. "With the marked pages?" she asked. "Yes." "And did you sign anything?" "No." "Good," she said. "Then we move first." Those words made my chest tighten, but not from fear this time. For the first time that day, someone was not telling me to calm down. Someone was helping me act. Mara told me to send one clear email with every document I had saved. No long story, no begging, just the proof and the timeline. So I sat on the bathroom floor with my back against the tub and typed like my life had become a case file. Certified deed photo, separation agreement pages, signature line with yellow arrow, property interest page, Victor text telling me to stop digging, receipts for repairs, old email where he called it our house, refinance memory and possible date. I sent it all. Then Mara called me back and said, "I am sending written notice now." She explained it in simple words. She was telling Victor and the contact listed on the separation papers that I was not signing anything until the house records were reviewed. She was also requesting certified deed copies and a full title chain, so nobody could pretend the photo on my phone was just something I misunderstood. "It does not solve everything today," she said, "but it creates a record, and it tells them you are not alone." I closed my eyes when she said that. You are not alone. I had not realized how badly I needed those words until I heard them. 20 minutes later, Victor's phone rang downstairs. Then mine rang. "Victor." I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Then the text came. "What did you do?" I stared at it, for words, but they told me the notice had landed. Another message followed. "You have no idea what you are starting." I took screenshots of both. Before, his anger would have pulled me into panic. I would have rushed to explain myself. I would have tried to prove I was not trying to hurt him. But now I heard Mara's voice in my head. "Do not argue. Keep records." So I did not reply. A few minutes later, Victor came up the stairs. He did not knock this time. He stopped outside the bathroom door and spoke through it. "You think a lawyer changes what is true." I looked down at the deed photo on my phone. "No," I said through the door, "but the records might." Silence. Then he laughed once, but it sounded wrong. "Empty." "You are going to regret this," he said. Maybe he wanted me to open the door. Maybe he wanted me to cry. Maybe he wanted the old Lena, the one who would rather keep peace than make him angry. But that woman had signed too many things without reading them. I stayed on the floor and waited until he walked away. Then Mara emailed me a copy of the notice. My name was at the top. Victor's name was under it. The words title review and disputed property interest were written in plain black letters. It was the first time the truth had left my hands and entered the world. And that was when the next message came. Not from Victor, from a woman named Camille Reed. The message from Camille Reed was not long, but it made my whole body go still. "I do not know what Victor has told you, but you need to stop making this hard for him. He said the house was his before you two were even serious." I read it 3 times. Then I read the name again. Camille Reed. I did not know her well, but I knew enough. I had seen her name on Victor's phone before, always under work excuses. A late meeting, a client dinner, a weekend call that he said could not wait. At the time, I had chosen peace over questions. Now peace felt like the place where lies had grown. Another message came before I answered. He said, "You are refusing to leave because you want to punish him. That is cruel, Lena. He is trying to move forward." Move forward. Those 2 words made the hallway tilt. Victor had not just been trying to push me out of a house. He had been building a new story for someone else. In that story, I was not a wife who had helped carry the weight of that home. I was not a woman whose name was on the deed. I was a bitter problem standing in front of his future. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type everything. I wanted to send her the deed. I wanted to ask if she knew he had let me pack towels from a house he knew was partly mine. But Mara's warning came back. "Do not argue. Keep records." So I took screenshots. Camille sent a 3rd message. He promised this would be settled this week. I already changed my plans because of him. I stopped breathing for a second, changed my plans. That was not just gossip. That was a timeline. Victor had promised her something before the title review, before the signed papers, before my so-called agreement. He had spoken about the house like it was already clean, like I had already disappeared from it. I saved that message too. Then I scrolled up and saw that Camille had attached a photo. It was Victor on our front porch. Our front porch. The same porch step I had paid to repair. The same porch where I had kept 2 flower pots every spring. Camille was standing beside him, smiling like she belonged there. Victor's hand was on the small of her back. The photo was not proof of ownership, but it was proof of his story. He had shown her the house. He had let her stand on my porch. He had told her I was the one holding up their future. For a minute, the legal part of it disappeared, and all I could feel was the simple cruelty. He had made me feel homeless while giving another woman a tour. I forwarded every message to Mara. Then I wrote only one reply to Camille. "You should ask Victor why he needs my signature." I did not send the deed. I did not explain. I did not beg another woman to believe me. I just gave her the one question Victor could not answer, cleanly. Downstairs, Victor's phone rang. A few seconds later, he shouted my name. Not softly this time. And I knew the next conversation would not happen through doors, texts, or lawyers. It would happen face to face. Victor came up the stairs so fast that I heard him before I saw him. His hand hit the banister once, hard. Then he appeared at the top of the stairs with his phone, still in his hand. "What did you say to Camille?" he snapped. I stood in the hallway with my purse over my shoulder and my phone in my palm. I could feel my heartbeat everywhere, but I kept my voice flat. I asked her one question. His eyes narrowed. "You had no right to drag her into this." That almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because he had brought her to my porch. He had let her believe the house was his. He had told her I was the one standing in the way of his clean new life. I did not drag her anywhere. I said, "You did." His face changed. Just a little. But I saw it. He stepped closer. "You do not know what I told her. I know she thinks the house was yours before we were serious." Victor looked away, only for half a second. Then he said, "That is not the point." "It is the point," I said, "because you told me the house was never mine. You told her the house was always yours. But the deed has my name on it, and the separation papers need my signature." He opened his mouth, then closed it. That silence gave me more than an answer would have. "You are mixing things up," he said. "A deed can have a name on it for reasons that do not mean what you think. Then why did you need me to sign the property page?" His jaw moved like he was biting down on words before they escaped. "Because paperwork has to be clean," he said. "Clean for what?" He looked at my purse. There it was again. Not guilt, not grief, fear. "Clean for closing this marriage," he said. But that was not what he had said before. Before, he said the pages were simple. Before, he said the house was not an issue. Before, he said I was emotional and confused. Now, suddenly, the paperwork had to be clean. I took one slow breath. "Did you already promise Camille she could live here?" His face hardened. "You are acting crazy." The old Lena would have flinched. She would have started defending her tone, her feelings, her right to ask. I did not. I opened my phone and looked at the screenshots again. Camille's words were still there. He promised this would be settled this week. "I am asking because she changed her plans for you," I said. "So what did you promise her?" Victor's hand tightened around his phone. "You are going to destroy everything over a misunderstanding." "Everything," I repeated, "or your plan." For the first time, he did not answer fast enough. Then my phone buzzed. Not from Camille, not from Victor, from Mara. I looked down and saw the first line of her message. The title company responded. "There is more in the chain than the original deed." My mouth went dry. Victor saw my face change. "What?" he demanded. I locked my phone and put it against my chest, because now I knew the confrontation had done its job. Victor's words had started breaking, but the records were about to do something worse. I did not open Mara's message in front of Victor. I held my phone against my chest and watched him watch me. "What did she say?" he asked. I said nothing. That made him angrier than an answer would have. "You are letting a stranger poison your head," he said. "That woman does not know our marriage." "No," I said, "but she knows records." His face went tight. I walked past him and went into the bedroom. This time, I did not lock myself in the bathroom. I stood beside the bed, opened Mara's message, and read it while Victor stayed in the doorway. The title company had answered her first request. Mara wrote in short, careful lines. The original recorded deed showed both names. Mine and Victor's. That part should have made me feel safe. Instead, it made me feel sick, because it meant Victor had known how wrong his words were when he told me the house was never mine. Then I read the next line. There is a later document in the chain that appears to affect your interest. I read it twice. My interest, not Victor's feelings, not his opinion, not his kitchen speech. My interest. Mara said she had requested the full copy, the recording date, and the notary information. She also said the title company had flagged the issue because the separation papers did not match the clean story Victor was trying to tell. I looked at the printed agreement on the bed, the yellow arrow, the property interest page, my blank signature line. Everything that had felt confusing now started to line up. The deed said I was on the house. The agreement still needed my signature. The title company saw something in the chain. And Victor had spent the whole day trying to make me stop reading. That was not confusion. That was a pattern. "What are you looking at?" Victor asked. I turned the phone screen down. "Records." He stepped into the room. "Tell her to stop requesting things." My heart kicked once. There it was. Not what things? Not, that must be a mistake. Stop requesting things. You said the house was never mine. I said, so what are you afraid she will find? His eyes flashed. I am afraid you are going to ruin both of us because you do not understand adult paperwork. That line used to shrink me. Now, it only showed me where to look. Adult paperwork. Clean paperwork. Marked pages. A later document. I picked up my notebook from the bed and wrote down every phrase. Victor watched me write, and something in him changed again. His anger became quieter, more careful. You signed things during the refinance. He said, you remember that, right? The room seemed to tilt. I did remember. The kitchen island. The blue pen. His thumb on the corner of the page. What did I sign? I asked. He gave a small laugh. See, this is exactly what I mean. You do not even remember your own paperwork. But he had answered the wrong question. I had asked what I signed. He had answered by blaming me for not remembering. That was when the proof stopped feeling like pieces and started feeling like a shape. I forwarded Mara's message to myself, then saved it in the house proof folder. I added one more note under the refinance memory. Victor connected refinance to later document before I did. Then I looked back at the title update. Mara had written one final line. The notary information may be important. I stared at those words until the letters blurred. Because if there was a later document that said I gave up something, then someone had watched me sign it. Or someone had claimed they did. And that was the next piece we had to find. Mara called me 40 minutes later. By then, Victor had gone quiet. That scared me more than his yelling. I was sitting on the edge of the bed with my notebook open, staring at the words notary information may be important. I had written them twice, like writing them again could make them less heavy. When I answered, Mara did not waste time. We received the later document, she said. My hand tightened around the phone. What is it? A quitclaim deed, she said. It appears to say you gave up your interest in the house. For a second, every sound in the room disappeared. I knew the word deed by then. I knew title. I knew property interest. But quitclaim sounded cold and final, like a door being locked from the other side. I never gave him the house, I said. I know, Mara said gently. Listen to me. This is why we check the dates. She explained it in simple words. The original deed showed my name with Victor's. The later quitclaim was recorded after a refinance package. The date was close to the week I remembered signing those rushed bank papers at the kitchen island. Blue pen, Victor's thumb on the corner. Here, and here. My stomach turned. Mara said the title officer, Owen Patel, had flagged the file because the story did not line up cleanly. If I had willingly given up my share, then Victor should not have needed to pressure me so hard now. And if the document was connected to paperwork he had called routine, then the notary trail mattered. Does the notary prove what happened? I asked. Not by itself, Mara said, but it tells us who claimed to witness the signature, where it happened, and what record exists. I looked toward the bedroom door. Victor was on the other side of the house, but suddenly I felt like he was everywhere. In the walls, in the papers, in every time he had smiled and said, trust me. Then his voice came from the hallway. You found it, didn't you? I froze. He was closer than I thought. Mara heard him too. Do not argue, she said. Put me on mute if you need to. I lowered the phone. Victor stood in the doorway with no softness left on his face. That paper was legal, he said. I had not even told him which paper. That was how I knew he knew. My throat burned. You told me it was refinance paperwork. It was all part of the same process, he said. You signed what you signed. The words hit harder than any shout, not because they proved he was right, because they proved he remembered. He remembered the kitchen island. He remembered the pages. He remembered me asking if I should read them. He remembered making me feel foolish for slowing him down. And later, when he told me the house was never mine, he knew exactly why he needed me to believe that. I lifted the phone again and took it off mute. "Mara," I said, and my voice sounded different even to me. "He knows which paper you found." Victor's face changed. Mara paused for one breath. Then she said, "Good. Then we need this in an official setting now." I looked at Victor, and for the first time, I did not ask him to explain. The hidden truth was already standing between us. He had not stolen the house in one loud moment. He had tried to make me sign myself out of it while calling it trust. And now the only question left was whether the records could prove it, where he could not talk over me. 2 days later, I sat across from Victor in a small title office that smelled like printer ink and old coffee. Mara sat beside me with a folder in front of her. Victor sat across the table with his lawyer, but he would not look at me for more than a second. Owen Patel, the title officer, placed 3 papers in the center of the table. He did not raise his voice. He did not make it dramatic. That made it worse. "This is the certified copy of the original deed," Owen said. He turned the first page toward us. My name was there. Lena Hart. Victor's name was beside mine. No one in that room could call it memory. No one could call it emotion. It was black ink on a county record. Owen tapped the second paper. "This is the later quitclaim deed." Victor shifted in his chair. Mara looked at him, then back at the paper. "And the recording date?" Owen gave the date. My breath caught. It was the same week as the refinance papers. The kitchen island came back to me, so clearly that I could almost smell the coffee Victor had been drinking that morning. His thumb on the page. His voice rushing me. "Here, here, and here." Victor's lawyer cleared his throat. "My client's position is that Mrs. Hart signed the document voluntarily." Mara did not argue with him. She simply slid my written timeline across the table. "This is Mrs. Hart's timeline," she said. Victor represented the papers as routine refinance documents. He also told her recently and repeatedly that she had no interest in the property, while asking her to sign a separation agreement that still treated her property interest as something needing release. Owen nodded once and opened the title report. "That contradiction is why the file was flagged," he said. Victor leaned forward. "Because she is confused. That is all this is." Lena never understood paperwork. For years, that sentence would have made me feel small. In that room, it sounded desperate. Mara opened her folder and removed the printed text messages. Victor telling me to stop digging. Victor asking what I had done after the notice. Victor telling me I had no idea what I was starting. Then she placed Camille's messages beside them. He promised this would be settled this week. Owen looked from one page to the next. "The issue is not whether Mrs. Hart understood every legal word. The issue is that the title file cannot be treated as clean while there is a dispute over how this quitclaim was obtained." Victor's face reddened. "It was legal." Mara looked at him calmly. "Then why did you tell her the house was never hers?" The room went quiet. That was the question he could not dress up. Victor opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Owen turned to the last page. "There is also a notary entry that does not match the location Mrs. Hart remembers for the refinance signing. The notary record states the quitclaim was acknowledged at an office location." I stared at him. "I never went to an office for that," I said. Mara put one hand near my folder, not touching me, just close enough to remind me I was not alone. Owen nodded. "That is why this matter cannot move forward as a clean transfer or sale file without further resolution." Victor pushed back from the table. "This is ridiculous." But nobody followed his anger. Nobody tried to comfort him. Nobody asked me to calm down. The documents stayed on the table like stones. He could not move. For the first time, I was not begging anyone to believe what I remembered. The deed, the quitclaim timing, the notary issue, the title flag, and Victor's own messages were all saying it together. I had been on the house. Victor had known. And the paper he wanted me to sign was not about peace. It was about cleaning up the lie before anyone else saw it. Owen closed the file and said, "Until this is resolved, we cannot treat Mr. Hart as having clear authority to move the property alone." Victor looked at me then. Really looked. Not like I was weak. Like I had become the record he could not erase. And I knew whatever happened next, his private story was finished. Victor did not explode in the title office. That would have been easier to watch. Instead, he went very still, like a man trying to hold a wall up with his bare hands while everyone else could already hear it cracking. Owen's final words stayed on the table between us. Victor could not move the property alone. Not cleanly. Not quietly. Not with my name treated like a mistake. He could talk around. His lawyer asked for a pause. Mara agreed, but only after making sure the title company's notes stayed in the file. The disputed property interest, the quitclaim question, the notary mismatch, and the need for further review were now written into the process. That meant Victor could not rush a sale. He could not promise a clean transfer. He could not wave papers in my face and tell me I was too emotional to understand them. The same system he had used to scare me was now slowing him down. By the time we left the office, he had stopped looking angry and started looking trapped. Outside, his phone rang before we reached the parking lot. Camille. I knew, because her name lit up the screen before he turned it away. He ignored the call. Then she called again, and again. I did not need to hear the whole conversation later to know what happened. Camille sent me one message that told me enough. He said this was already handled. I looked at the words for a long time. Already handled. That was what I had been to him. Not a wife. Not a partner. Not a woman who had painted walls, paid repair deposits, and believed in a home. A problem he had promised someone else was already handled. I forwarded the message to Mara and did not reply. By evening, Victor's control had started falling apart in pieces. The buyer he had been quietly speaking with wanted proof that the title issue was resolved. The lender contact stopped returning his calls until the dispute was reviewed. Camille sent him messages. He did not answer. Then one final message to me. I did not know your name was on it. I believed her, not because she was innocent in everything, but because Victor had lied to both of us in different ways. He had told her I was refusing to leave his property. He had told me I never had a claim. The deed had exposed the lie in the middle. The next day, Mara sent Victor's lawyer a written demand to preserve all documents tied to the refinance, the quitclaim, and any planned transfer or sale. She also requested the notary records and communications connected to the title file. Victor called me after that. I did not answer. He left a voicemail. You are taking this too far. He said, you are going to cost us both money. Us. That word almost made me smile, but not because it was funny. When he wanted the house, it was his. When there were consequences, it became ours. Mara told me not to delete the voicemail, so I saved it. Within a week, the story Victor had built was no longer useful to him. Camille stopped defending him. The title company would not treat the house as clean. His lawyer stopped sending rushed signature requests. And every time Victor tried to say, I was confused, the file answered with dates, names, records, and his own messages. He had wanted control over the house. He lost that. He had wanted control over Camille's belief. He lost that too. Most of all, he had wanted control over the story of what kind of woman I was. The documents took that from him. And once I saw that truth could stand without me begging for it, I finally had space to ask what I wanted my life to feel like after the fight ended. After that week, The house became quiet in a way I had not expected. Not empty, quiet. There was a difference. For months, quiet had meant waiting for Victor's footsteps, his voice, his next reason I was wrong. But after the title file spoke louder than he could, quiet began to feel like air coming back into a room. The legal work did not end in one perfect day. Papers still had to be reviewed. Mara still handled the records. The quitclaim issue still had to be resolved properly. But the most important thing had already changed. Victor could not stand in front of me anymore and make his lie feel bigger than the truth. One morning, I walked into the kitchen before sunrise. The old clock above the pantry was still ticking. The same clock Victor had laughed at. The same clock I had heard when he reached for the deed. I made coffee and stood there without shaking. That felt small. It was not. Later, I took the certified deed copy, the title notes, the messages and Mara's letters, and placed them in one clean folder. I did not carry the deed in my purse like a shield anymore. I put it away because I no longer needed to hold proof in my hand to believe myself. Then I went outside and sat on the front porch. The repaired step was solid under my feet. I remembered paying the deposit for that repair. I remembered standing in the heat while the worker measured the wood. Back then, I thought I was helping build a marriage. Now I understood I had also been building proof that I had lived, loved, worked, and belonged there. Victor still tried to call a few times. I let the calls go unanswered. His voice did not own the room anymore. His anger did not decide my day. His version of me no longer had a place to live. If you were in my place, would you have exposed every detail publicly? Or would you have chosen quiet justice once the records protected you? I still think about that. Sometimes justice is not a crowd watching someone fall. Sometimes it is one woman finally breathing in a room where she used to apologize for existing. And if stories like this remind you that truth can be quiet and still be strong, please subscribe and stay with this community. I did not leave that chapter with a perfect heart. I left it with an honest one. There were days when grief still came in small waves. I grieved the rainy Thursday when Victor said ours. I grieved the woman who signed papers because she thought trust was the same as safety. But I did not hate her. She was trying to love a man who was using her love as cover. The woman I became after that did not need Victor to say, "You were right." The deed had already said enough. The records had already said enough. And when I stood in that house one last time before choosing my next step, I touched the kitchen wall I had painted with my own hands and smiled. Not because Victor lost, because I finally understood. I had never been a guest in my own life.